What is up, guys? It's Doodoo Poker here, back for another video. Today we are going to be talking about how to play versus pre-flop 4-bets. Now, it is a little more complicated than just looking at GTO Wizard or pre-flop sim and RNGing. We can do much better than this. What do I mean? Well, we need to look at specific positions, sizings, pre-flop MDA, artificial intelligence to understand what is going on. So let's take a spot. Let's say I have ace-5 suited. I'm in the small blind and the cutoff RFIs. The cutoff RFIs 2.2x. I'm in the small blind with my ace-5 suited. And I 3-bet to 11.2. The cutoff 4-bets to 23.8. And I have a 0 EV decision on whether or not to jam. We know from a solver that ace-5 suited is a 0 EV jam, and folding is also 0 EV because foldings are always 0 EV. But we want to think, why should I jam or why should I not jam? What should I be thinking about? Well, what we need to understand is the size of the 4-bet is the most important data point against an unknown regular. What do I mean? Well, if we look and compare pre-flop MDA and we look at 4-bets in position with less than 23 big blind sizings, what do we notice? We notice that aces is more likely than ace-king off, but aces is only 6 combos and ace-king off is 12 combos. So ace-king off should not be less common than aces, assuming an equal distribution. What does that mean? That means the smaller they 4-bet, the more weighted population is to a very strong hand like aces or kings. So this is not good for 5-bet jamming. Conversely, let's look at pre-flop MDA for 4-bets in position with greater than 23 big blind sizing. Now, all of a sudden, you see ace-king off as more common than aces, which is what you should be seeing because ace-king off has 12 combos and aces has 6 combos. So the size of the 4-bet is one of the most important data points. We know in theory that if I 5-bet jam ace-5 suited, it is a 0 EV play. But is it a 0 EV play in practice? Well, if my opponent 4-bet to over 23 big blinds, like in this hand, and we go to artificial intelligence, what do we see? The artificial intelligence says that this is no longer a 0 EV play. In fact, Hero's bet EV is almost 4 big blinds. Why is it 4 big blinds? Because of the sizing. So let's think about this for a second. We know from pre-flop MDA that the bigger the 4-bet, the more they're weighted towards ace-king, and the smaller the 4-bet, the more they're weighted towards aces. So when they go bigger and we have ace-5 suited, we have a positive EV jam. Why do we have a positive EV jam? Because when we have ace-5 suited and we get called, we do not want to be against ace-king. Why? Because we only have 31.2% equity. We also don't want to be against aces. Because why? Because we only have 13.3% equity. If we get called, we want to be against kings and queens because we have the most equity versus those holdings. So when they go 23, 24 big blinds, we have a positive EV jam. Conversely, if we have a hand like pocket eights, and we know pocket eights is a 0 EV 5-bet jam, we should not be jamming. Why? Because if you have pocket eights and you get called, you want to be against ace-king off. But ace-king off usually goes bigger than 23 or 24 big blinds because it wants to increase fold equity. Just like aces goes smaller from humans because it's not worried about getting called, ace king off goes slightly bigger and wants fold equity. So when they go 23 to 24 big blinds, you do not want to jam eights. That will be a losing play, and ace five suited will be a winning play. So what do we want to think about? We want to think about that the better the competition, the more nuanced poker becomes. We understand the bigger the 4-bet, the more likely our opponents have ace king, and the smaller the 4-bet, the more likely they have aces. We see from artificial intelligence that if I jam all in, the folding frequency is 47.4%, and if I look at artificial intelligence, it's 48. So the folding frequency doesn't really change much. What changes is the range composition. The range composition is very important to understand, because what we see, what we see here, if I go to the 4-bet GTO sizing, 5-bet calling range, is ace king off and aces are less likely than kings and queens, because aces go smaller and ace king off goes bigger. So when you have a hand like pocket eights, you do not want to jam in this spot because you're likely against kings or queens. But if you have ace five suited, well, now if you get called, you want to be against kings and queens. So now it turns from a 0 EV play into an almost 4 big blind winner. The most important data point in deciding what to do with your hand against an unknown reg versus a 4-bet is the sizing. So guys, remember, the bigger the 4-bet, the more likely it's ace king, and the smaller the 4-bet, the more likely it is aces. If you enjoy this type of content, please give me a like, please give me a subscribe. New video every single day, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.